Well, well, well. If it ain't Let's Play Sahara Games.
It's Sierra Games.
That's what I said. Savannah Games.
Listen, I'm just trying to get to the lands below.
The lands below? I can't help you with that.
What? Why not? I was told you could help.
Well, I suppose I could.
You just said you can't.
I said I can't help you.
Why can't you help me?
Well, you need 1,000 subscribers to get to the lands below.
This is going to be tougher than I thought.
Alright everyone, thank you for joining me for the commentary version of Torin's Passage. Now, if you watch the original gameplay, it is something like 5 hours and 40 minutes, I believe. What I've done is, after the intro, I've left the intro at its normal speed because it is such a great intro and I want to talk about it. But after the intro, the game is sped up so that the commentary version is in a much easier digestible version at being only an hour right now, an hour and a half. It may even be trimmed down more. If I find areas that I don't really talk about the game too much, I may speed up the gameplay to basically decrease the size of the game. But let's start talking about this intro. Now, this intro to me, when I first saw it, when it first came out, to me, this was by far the closest that I'd seen come to like a very Disney-esque type animation. To me, the animation in Torin's Passage is way better than what we saw in King's Quest VII. Now, King's Quest VII had beautiful animation, very art style, but it also looked very flat, whereas here you can see like the shades over Licentia and things like that. I just thought they did such a good job with the intro overall. Even in the cutscenes for King's Quest VII, I don't think they came as close as to what we see here. Now, granted, obviously it's not going to be 100% Disney-esque type animation because I'm not sure that there was the computer technology to pull that off back then. But this comes pretty close with how well it's done. The colors are vibrant. The animation is very, very smooth. Everything is so well done. And the introduction, while it is beautifully done, it does tell a very, very dark tale overall. I mean, here we have this very sinister figure who clearly has some sinister plans. He's done something to that thing to invoke these snakes. One thing that I do wish, though, that we got with this introduction was a little bit of conversation as to who he is and his relationship to the king and queen. Because we don't really know his name, by the way, is... I'm going to pronounce it Bekend, but I'm not actually sure if that is actually how it's properly pronounced. But we don't know his relationship. Is he just like someone who's a wizard who serves the king and queen? Or is he actually directly related to them? And as we'll find out progressively, we actually do learn that he's actually related to them. And he is actually, if I'm remembering correctly, he is actually the brother to the king, which would make him Torin's uncle. So I feel like that would add a lot of clarification as to why he would want to be rid of the king, queen, and child that would make him the next ruler. So now we see Torin and his parents. It's very Luke Skywalker feeling with this, because his mother and father are clearly not his true mother and father, as we saw them perish. So it's almost kind of like a Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru. But there is more to that I'll go to near the end. But it does definitely give a Luke Skywalker feeling, because he even has to go to town to get something for his father, similar to Luke having to go to the old place to get something for his uncle. And here we are with Torin saying he wants to be a hero, similar to how Luke wants to join the rebellion. So there are a lot of similarities between Torin's Passage in the intro and Star Wars.
Asleep again?
And then we have Boogle, who by far is the cutest sidekick in any game ever. This game is fantastic, but Boogle adds so much to it.
I just I just don't want to live my
And we can't
life
even
without
really understand
ever
what Boogle's saying,
having
but
lived my life.
what he can do is awesome. So now we witness something here, and this is, I'm going to talk more about it towards the end, but we see his parents encased in ice, and then suddenly this tornado thing appears again, and they disappear, and we briefly saw a woman's face that sort of looked like Licentia. And now Picard shows up and basically says, hey, I saw everything. When it happened, I was so frightened, I hid away in these bushes. And, I saw what happened, and whoever did this was clearly a very powerful sorcerer or sorceress. It couldn't be Licentia, which, if you break down that name, Licentia, to me it sounds like lies sent ya. So it's almost sort of telling that he is basically telling lies, and it's lies that sent ya, Licentia. Anyway, so what's interesting is the game immediately walks you away from the house, even though he was talking to Picard right outside the house. And so the game puts you away, but you actually have to walk back because there's a number of items like the axe and the rope, and you actually need Inchworm here, who you can see I clearly struggled with. I'm not super old and decrepit yet. But it was very difficult to try to click on Inchy, and you can see that eventually I was like, oh, okay, clearly I need something else to get Inchy. So I actually walked away from needing Inchy. So I got the berries from there, gonna walk back, and then walk over here, get the berries again. There was a few times where I forgot to record, so sometimes you'll see a quick edit, and there's even a part during a puzzle where I forgot to record during the puzzle, and so I had to basically redo that puzzle scene, and you'll see that I saved it saying, hey, I forgot to record. All right, over here we go talk to these two slugs. They've got a lot of comedy and banter between them. Essentially what they're headed for is a race, and every time they do something funny, they I-5 one another. Or instead of high five, or I2 or I4. I don't know I can't remember how they pronounce it, but basically they do the equivalent of a high five with their eyeballs. And basically they banter with you quite a bit, but in the end you will discover that what they want to do is partake in a race. So we're going to need to help them. One of the cool things that I did like about Torin's Passage is that slider that I just moved right there. That slider allows you to see from side to side, and even in some sections you will be able to see up and down. So moving the slider allows you to move around quickly, and you can do different stuff. Now, over here, we're on this edge. Clearly we can use the rope to do something. So we kick the rope over, climb down. Now, trying to get the bog from there and trying to figure this puzzle out. I did do another version that's even sped up more, but I struggled on how to get the bog from here. So I tried a few times, tried to reach that ledge a few different ways, but nothing seems to work. I'm trying to use the rope around here. So it seems the only way to do it is climb up here, use the rope, tie it to yourself, then tie it to the tree. Make sure you do both, and then jump down. And you get the bog by doing that, but then you lose your bag. And you can see the stump, and when you click on it, he actually says, if I can only reach that stump. So it seems like there'd be a way to do that, because he talks about, hey, if I could just reach it. And this is one of the things in Torin's Passage that was difficult, because usually when you can do something, you can arrow over it, and it kind of gives you an indication that you can do something. And what you actually have to do, and I'll do it here in a moment, is you have to start swaying back and forth. Now, this took me a while. So like I said, there is a second version of this video that I'll probably release the same time or right before I do the commentary version, that I sped up a lot of these things where I was stuck like this, where I wasn't sure how to move or get away from it, trying different things like the axe. Can I reach it with the axe? Like chuck the axe into it and hang on to the axe. But eventually I figured out by accidentally clicking off to the side that you can make Torin swing. So suddenly he's able to swing, and it took a few times to even still get it right. But eventually I was able to grab it, and you can climb over. And then once he does that, he can flip over to the other side, and Boogle just goes down, stands on the thing, or stands on the bog without sinking, and brings your bag to you. So there was never a need to actually try to get your bag. You just need to get off of that freaking rope tree thing. So now we're going to go over here to the right and see what's over here, do some exploring. And there is areas in the game where when Torin is walking, you'll see the fast forward action, kind of like right there, that allows you to surpass certain animations. So in, I believe it's the next area, there's areas where you're walking through long stairs, and you can actually, once he starts walking, click the fast forward to hurry him through. So this guy says, hey, I can't let you in. Basically, I guard this place, and I'm just waiting for my replacement to show up. And he pretty much shuts the door in your face. Now, if you watch the intro video with my little, I need 1,000 subscribers. So if you're this far into it and you haven't done it already, go ahead and click that subscribe button. But at the very beginning of this, I've started this thing ever since Quest for Glory 2 to start making like little subscriber videos using the game somehow, whether it was doing like a video edit and doing some voice acting, which I did for Torin's Passage, or just doing some fun visual edits, which I did for Quest for Glory 2. But if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. And I was going to say, if you watch that little intro, that's where that was from, was that exchange of dialogue. So over here, we're chucking rocks at this guy. And the guard keeps coming out yelling, halt! And there is some banter back and forth. One of the times, Torin says, I am already halted. And then you chuck a few more rocks, and he says, go away, I am sleeping. And even when you chuck a rock, and he says it again, Torin basically says, how can you be sleeping if you're answering me? And he says, go away, I'm sleeping. Now, ironically, there is actually nothing to do with that guard. He's just there to be there, which is a rare thing in Sierra games. Usually everyone is there for a reason, and you have to figure out what you need to do for him to make it happen. So we're going to go ahead and go back. And what we're going to do is now we're going to lie to the guard and basically tell him, hey, we're your replacement. And then he'll say, oh, well, come on in. And he'll say stuff like, well, I don't really care for the new look of the uniforms and all. You guys seem kind of lazy. And then he'll go on to tell you that before he leaves, it is tradition within the guards that you cook a very specific meal for him. And so we have to gather the items that he requires for his meal, and then he's going to ask for a dessert. Then he's going to top it off, I think, ask for a dinner, and then top it off with a dessert. So we've got a few things to do with this character before he shows us what we need, which is a secret door behind that cabinet. So first we're going to mix her up, get those berries for him, and then give him the berries, and he chugs it down. And then in typical Lowe fashion, when you ask him, hey, what kind of berries were those? He goes, well, of course, they were Chuck berries, as in the musician Chuck Berry. So Lowe keeps his humor throughout the game. And really, when you're playing Chapter 1, the look and feel of this game still looks very Disney-esque, like it is beautifully done. What you'll find when we go into other sections of this game, each layer of this game is a different part of the world that you're traveling into as you're making your way towards the lands below, which Torin can't get to unless we get 1,000 subscribers. So go ahead and click that subscribe button. Anyway, each one of them is a different area of this world, and each of them has her own name and a very different look. So the next area after this looks nothing like this world. This one's very beautiful, bright, and colorful, and has all these very animated and beautiful characters. And so when you travel to the other ones, they are different, and I will have a lot to say about some of those areas. So as you can see, it takes a lot of patience, but you can and you have to actually catch Inchy by feverishly clicking on him until you catch him. And that is because the slugs say, hey, we need like a good leaf, like a really big leaf for this race. And so you need Inchy, who is an inchworm, to quote unquote measure the leaves. And so after clicking on a few leaves, you'll get the right one, pick it up, and then you accidentally step on Inchy. Oops. But he's all right. He's fine. But we let him go at that point because he's fine. And then, as you'll see throughout, when Boogle, who is your cute little companion, sees different things, there is the Torin and Boogle tabs. Boogle will imitate a number of things that he sees. So if he sees a box, he'll imitate the box. If he sees like the inchworm, he can imitate the inchworm. He can't imitate everything he sees, so Boogle does have a limit as to what he can do, and what he can do, he will do automatically. You do not need to basically click on Boogle to tell him to imitate something. If he sees something that he can imitate, he will go ahead and imitate it briefly, and then you'll see it available in the Boogle option. So we've got the leaf, and now we know that we need to head to the bog where the guard was, who basically kept saying he's sleeping. So we're going to go back there, put the slugs down in the river, and just for fun, I saved it here because I'm pretty sure if you step inside the moat, you'll get basically essentially a tribute to King's Quest. So we're going to step inside, and sure enough, the croctopus, which combines the worst things of a crocodile and an octopus, kills you. And then so when we restore back, we put the leaf down with the slugs who are like, this is great. And you ask for some bog juice, which is what the guard wants for part of his meal. And so now we have bog juice. So now we are closer to what he needs. So we're going to make our way around. And you see those slugs quickly disappear. So we're going to slide down the bog juice, which attracts the slugs. I have to try it again. But this time we're going to use the Boogle box. So when they go down there, you tell Boogle to basically slam down the trap, and then we have slugs. And then so what I failed to do here, but you can click on them right in the middle, and there you go. You can see the slugs. And you can kind of do that for all of your inventory items and take a spin. Now, overall, it just kind of seems like something that's just cool to do to look at your inventory items, but there is one inventory item where you're going to have to use this tool to look at it. And we'll get to that later, but it's essentially a quote-unquote music box, if you will. So now we're with the guard, and we have the slug stew. Now we have to cook up the slugs, which, but you know, there it is. I forgot, he calls it like sluggetti and something else. So he says, well, now to finish it off, I need a dessert. And he wants a wood pie or something like that. And so pretty much know where we have to go. See that little unusual looking square? Take that. Yep. And then head down here. And we're going to make food out of this piece of wood. So we show it to him. He's like, oh, that looks like a fine piece of wood. And so now we have to make something of it. And Lowe breaks down a mathematical joke. I can't remember if he makes the joke about 3.14 pi, or if he talks about the square root, because it's a root and it's a square. It's probably the square root. I can't remember right now. It has been a few days since I've played this. But here we are. We're at the first part, and we're about to finish chapter 1. So he gives us a crystal and says, hey, you're going to need this if you want to control the thing. So we're going to go over the console. And I did not figure out the logic to this. This ended up, as you will see, just being a guessing game of clicking on things a number of times until it actually worked. So this is one of the things I want to talk about. So far, the game is fairly easy and definitely something that, you know, a parent could enjoy with their kids. Now, I'm an adult. I figured, you know, most of these should be fairly easy for me. as an adult. I've played this game before several times, but it probably has been over 10 years since the last time I played Torin's Passage. And so trying to figure out this puzzle, especially when some of the lights will move, see how they just all moved, it was difficult. It was a lot of random just clicking and seeing what happens. And I avoid clicking on the, you'll see the question thing and over to the right, rise up sometimes. I avoid clicking on that because when you do, it does deduct points from you. So I was going to try to get the max points, which I think is 999. So I think Lowe purposely made it the max since he has 3 numbers there. So we finally got it. Seems to be lit up, and now we have this thing. And he says, "Oh, if only I had a pouch." Torin, you are carrying a pouch on your hip right now. This pouch already has an axe and a crystal in it. So I figure I must be missing something. I've clicked around. There's nothing here that I can seem to find. Really, the only other place to find anything that would be clickable would be home, which I thought I clicked through pretty closely. Spoiler alert, there is something that I clearly missed. So not only did I have to come back for Inchy, but we're going to go back into the house. And as you can clearly see, I'm not using a walkthrough. I already had all this stuff before I left, and I would be playing far more effectively than I am now. But by scrolling around, I did find that there is that table where Torin's father keeps his pipes and stuff like that. There is also a pouch there. So instead of the man purse that Torin has on his hip, well, I guess we need a pouch specifically for carrying this powder, which is odd because we've already carried sludge inside his regular man purse and stuff like that, and he's going to carry a bunch of other stuff in that man purse that is sludge and slugs and all like stuff like that. So why couldn't we just carry the powder in that same pouch? It makes no sense to me. But there you have it. So now we're headed for Escarpa, and we get another cutscene that says, hey, it's the family there. They're, unfortunately they did not survive, stuff like that. And we cut back over to Torin, who falls and just in time avoids a tile. Now, if you looked very closely up there, there was another tile. So what we're going to do is we're going to save and say chapter 2, go back up here, grab the other tile, and Torin's going to have the same exact thing happen again. He will fall and know to move his head just in time to get a second tile. So now we know we need tiles. Tiles have something to do with this. And we enter in this room and we see the bitter nuts. Now, I'm going to say, I am a much older gentleman, as you've probably seen from the thumbnails. I've got a beard, gray hair in it, so I've been around for a while. When I was watching TV, it was not black and white. There were some black and white TV shows that I did watch. My mother, for example, was a fan of I Love Lucy, which was in black and white. And I get the idea of the old show and the parody of this type of stuff. But I found this whole segment with the bitter nuts painful. Like, there was nothing in this part of this thing. So we just saw Boogle imitate something. There was no part of anything I saw in here during the bitter nut section that I thought was funny. Like I said, I'm old enough to understand the reference to the black and white TV shows and the laugh tracks and all that stuff. It just wasn't there for me. Like, there was nothing about being stuck here in the bitter nuts. And just when I play these games, like, I could have probably just left and figured out what to do with the bitter nuts on my own without having to expend all the dialogue. But when I do my original playthroughs, what I like to do is get the most out of the game. So what I'll do is I'll keep talking to someone until they essentially start repeating themselves. Or they say, I have nothing else to say to you, or something along those lines. So as a result, I sat here, engaging with each of the bitter nuts, trying to get the most out of each conversation to get the most out of the game. And show off everything that was in the game without just basically doing a power run or what a speed run or whatever those are called. So anyway, we see a tile on the table and try to get it. And she says, hey, you can't have that. So now we know we have a tile on this table. Now we know we have to do something for the bitternuts. In talking to her, she talks about how the king and queen are, they used to be fairly good friends and whatnot. They live across the way, and now they don't even come over. They don't socialize or nothing like that. So we can assume that somehow we have to get these two together. Over here on this clothesline, we see, one of those clothespins that are sitting there. So we're going to go ahead and take that. And there's someone sitting way over there, and when you yell at him, he will slightly move, as you just saw, but he doesn't really say anything. So we're going to go up through the other door, go back, because we still have stairs down that we can still explore. So let's go check out downstairs first and see how far we can go. All right, so now we have a cave, and this seems like a good place to save, because usually entering in something ominous that has something like teeth, it seems like a bad idea. Now we reach in there, and what we got is literally another tile. But now we need to see if there's more to this cave. So what we're going to do is one of the things that Boogle was able to turn into is an inchworm. And so we have Boogle change into an inchworm and go inside, but then he can't see. So then we're going to turn Boogle into a torch. And that is not a Mars bar that we see here. So I love the expression. So we tell Boogle to get a sample, and Boogle is very mad and gives eyes. And so what we have gathered is dragon poo. So that is clearly the mouth of a dragon that we're seeing, and we've got dragon poo. Now, once again, we're just carrying this dragon poo in this very same bag that apparently Torin couldn't put the powder that lets us teleport in. So, and if you try to pass these two vultures will stop you. Well, one of them will. So the one on the left is super grumpy and he's just hungry. The one on the right is trying to be more reasonable and saying, why don't we just let this thing happen? Just let him go. And then eventually he'll say, my other half over here, he's just hungry and he's hoping for food to just fly, in his mouth or whatever. Something along those lines, like dead food fly by. So we know that the bridge above overlooks it. And we know that eventually we do have to get past this guy because there's a set of stairs right over there. So let's make our way back. Nothing to do inside that cave. We're going to go up. If you talk to her, she won't do anything with you, but there is something we'll need from her, or she'll need to do for us later. So, like I said earlier before, there is the left to right, and then the up and down scrolling. So question. So there's a tile here, obviously, and we try to grab it, and the king says, "What are you doing?" "That's my tile." And then you can engage in conversation, and basically every time the king says something, the queen makes a very snarky remark, and he says, "What's that?" And then she'll reply back with something that rhymes close to what she said, but is a much kinder version. Now, this is where the game gets weird. So, another thing to notice is there's colorful crystals hanging upside down. There's one missing, but the person playing the piano. Now, because the head is so faded compared to everyone else, I can't tell who that is supposed to be. I'm assuming it's supposed to be perhaps Ken Williams in a female body creature thing playing a piano, because there is a mustache there, but the head moves and it's so faded, it's very difficult to see. But as you talk to the king and queen, they will tell you that their daughter has escaped. Not escaped, but has gone missing. She has basically left. And the queen gives you something to say, hey, show her this to know that we want her back and that we care for her. And it's a locket. You zoom at the locket and click it to open it. You'll get points for noticing that there is a picture. When you try to take the tile, the king says, "Well, why do you need it?" And he goes, "Oh, Torin just says, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of neat." And the king says, "Well, no, it's part of my floor, so it's going to stay here." So you take the one crystal you got from the original land, shove it up in there, and then they'll all light up, and you can see the beautiful rainbow behind the throne room and how great it looks. Now, you'd think that'd be enough to say, "Hey, allow me to have the tile, because I've given you something." But no, that's not the case. Instead, he invites you to the king's ball. Now, if you recall, the Bitternuts were like, hey, they never invite us for anything. Oh, and by the way, there's a turkey leg or a chicken leg on that table, so we're going to get that as well. But the Bitternuts had said, oh, they basically live right next to us, but they never invite us over for anything. And now we've been invited to the ball. So you can guess that this parchment is about to go over to the Bitternuts, and that'll get us the tile. So let's go ahead and save first. Flying dead meat, we're going to check that out, see if we can throw it from up here. Cannot throw it from the top of the bridge. So clearly need to throw it from somewhere. So we're going to go down a little bit more. And there it is. So you slide it off this thing, and it flies, and then the vulture says, there goes some flying dead meat. And they go diving after it, and it scrolls down to show you that tree. So clearly you can click on that tree and it says something like, oh, if only I could reach that tree. Now we've seen Torin do some pretty crazy jumps, and you're going to see him do one in a little bit. That's pretty crazy right here. Like, this is a very death-defying jump. That is literally across a ledge versus just jumping down onto a tree. So you go here, and 2 skunks leap out, and notice that the thing is you can climb down, and there's a number of items to pick up here. So we're going to grab that, the carpet, the fan. Okay, there's a thing there. We're going to grab that cushion. We're going to grab that tile. So we've got ourselves some tiles, and if you scroll down, there's another tile right there. So now we know there's another tile we have to get. So since we can scroll down, well, let's try the ladder. Spoiler alert, that's a bad idea. Now, I don't know how these women got down here, as most of them look to be considerably more gravity challenged than Torin himself. And they apparently got down there, but there are hallways down there that they may be entering from, so it's unclear who this room belongs to, if it's none of them. And so we're going to climb back up, and we're going to jump back across. So now we have another tile. Let's go over here, head on up. Again, you can hit fast forward normally on those little sections. So we try to swap the tile, and that's not it. So that doesn't work there. There's the invite. All right, so let's head out. Clearly swapping out that tile for the king's tile isn't what's supposed to happen. So we'll go up to over here, head over down to the Bitternuts, and let's give them that invite. And once again, the Bitternuts. Not recorded in front of a live audience. Ha 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 ha. So there we go. We hand it to her, and she's like, what? The royal ball? We've been invited? That's great. Everyone get your clothes. And then once she finishes talking, we go grab the tile, and she says, hey, that's my favorite tile. But then she said, well, you did get me invited to the royal ball. Go ahead and take that tile. So now we have yet another tile. So we're just collecting tiles left and right, moving the inventory around. We have that weird tile also, the one that says no booties or whatever. So we're going to head out of the Bitternuts, close that door, and listen to them say how it's not recorded in front of a live audience. La, 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 la. All right, so we got the tile from the Bitternuts. Head up here, nothing to do up here. So make our way back down, all the way back down. Now with the eagle gone, or the vulture, I guess you could say, 2-headed vulture, since they're gone, we're going to go ahead and pass that up. See, end up over here again. Do another death-defying jump. And there are some skunks here, so try to pass them. And these 2 skunks are, I think their names are Sam and Max, or Sam and something like that. And they're a reference to a LucasArts game, saying that the game stinks, I guess, is what they're implying, or at least that's what the parody is supposed to be implying. And if you try to ask them to go by, they said, sure, but we're going to spray you because this is our cave, and we're not just going to let anyone go by. And so we've reached the max here. So I'm going to do what I always do if you've watched any of my other playthroughs. it's going to look like it's frozen. What I'm actually doing is I've alt-tabbed out of the game, gone to the save game folder, created a new folder called Torin SG01, which stands for Torin Save Game 01, and I've moved all the files there so that way I'm able to save a blank area and basically keep all of my save games so that I'm not technically overwriting any of them. So as you try to get past the skunks, they will shoot their spray and pretty much prevent you from getting across. So what we can do is hold the blanket, and sure enough, for some reason, that's enough to scare them away. You would think they would just keep trying to spray at you. So now we ascend up these stairs, and we see this guy. Now it takes a few times that you have to keep clicking on him, and he says, "What do you want? I'm out here trying to meditate, man." And eventually through the conversation, you're going to learn that his rear end is on fire. Like literally, not literally, on fire. That from sitting out here for so long, he's lost feeling to his rear end. His rear end just hurts. So now that we know that, we know we've picked a pillow from that other harem room, I guess you could say. And so we're going to go ahead and give him the pillow, and he'll sit on it and be like, "Ah, yeah, this is the stuff." And as a result, he gives you a tile. So yeah, we're stacking up tiles now, and he's all good, kicking in it on the little cushion that we got him. Torin makes that death-defying leap, but won't jump down to a tree. Okay. And then we're going to make our way back up. Go over here. And cruise along. So we still have one more tile to get. We have to get it from beneath the harem. So make our way, go down, and see if we can figure out how to get that tile from the harem. So there is that tile. And we can scroll to the left, which means there's probably something to do because there's an overhang here, but we cannot climb down here. So that leads me to believe there's something to do here. And instinctively I thought, okay, well, a stinky thing will basically drive them out. But it just sits there, which I guess makes sense that there's nothing blowing it inside. So what we have to do is this fan becomes tremendously huge, and we use the fan to basically blow the scent of the skunk inside. But now that still leaves us what to do. We can't climb down there. Also, if we did, the thing is down there. So what we're going to do is we're going to send Boogle down the stairs by doing the yo-yo, and now he can go get the tile. And we tell Boogle to basically make his way across. But this took a few tries, as I ended up perishing rather than talking to Boogle. So at first I was trying to get Boogle to move up here, but I couldn't figure out, like, since we yo-yoed him, how does he get up here? And then eventually you just tell him to go through, and you hear him crashing, and there's a number of sounds happening, women screaming, all these things happening, and then Boogle disappears. So now we have yet another tile. I mean, we're doing great with these tiles. So not sure how many tiles we need. Spoiler alert, I know now because this is a commentary version I've already played. And so what we're going to do is see if this woman does anything with the weird tile. And sure enough, she does. So now we've got ourselves 8 tiles. We've done pretty much everything we can above. So poop often is used as fertilizer, and guess what? Dragon poo is magical fertilizer that makes a tree grow instantly. So now we have a couple pieces here of tile, not enough to match, but definitely something here. And instantly, and it was pure luck, I noticed that looks like a frown. So I've already figured out this is going to be a face. It's either going to be a face that's frowning or a face that's smiling. And so I need to figure out how this face looks and piece it together, because it looks like I've already got an eye over there. Now it looks like I have an eye with eyebrows. It looks like I've already got the face. So I just need the king's tile. So now that we have a purpose, right? Now we know what these tiles are for. Maybe we can convince the king to give us that last tile that we need. And hopefully he's not going to ask too much of us other than find his daughter, which we've already said that we're going to do because they said she's tall like us. They kind of make her sound not pretty, but when we see her, she is actually quite beautiful, at least, in terms of Torin. So after we explain what these tiles are for, the king is like, "Oh, well then it's for a good purpose. Yes, my son, go ahead and take it." So we make our way back down towards the tile, and you'll see here in a moment in one of the save games if you watch the play where it says, "Hey, I forgot to save it," so I had to basically go back, basically restore to the furthest part, go back, get a few tiles, come to the tile place, put it in the same format that I had saved here, and then basically redo it. So clearly the face that I have isn't correct, so we're going to move things around. So it looks like we have a nose. Is that it? Doesn't do anything, and also these two pieces are off. So is that it? Is that it? That looks like a face. And so you can see I said I forgot to record, so that's where it stops. So I had to redo it, basically get back here and redo this whole part. And I was close almost immediately. So there's a face. It says, "Those who come here will travel through me. Walk in and I will show you the way." And then so you go inside and there is another crystal here. So now we just, ironically, this is not one where we had to do like a little control thing. We just need to throw the powder on ourselves. Now, chapter 2 was still pretty good, right? Still, kind of kid friendly and stuff like that. And here we're at the trial of Licentia where it says, the parents have been killed. We don't know what you did with the child. We don't have evidence to prove that you killed them, but we're going to send you to the lands below, which is like this horrible place. And they put this medical on her and say, "You cannot come back. If you do, you will suffocate." So here we are with Torin in chapter 3, and we land, and we can see a few different routes we can take. So, spoiler, it doesn't matter which route you take, the same thing is about to happen. Torin is about to fall to a very, very grim death. Now, what's funny is I thought the game bugged because it kept zooming in and killing him, and I was like, "What is going on? Like, there's what?" But no matter what, you fall and they tie you up, and if you do not react quickly enough, simply just click on the ropes, you will get devoured, which is a pretty dark, sudden turn, right? Like here we are, the game's been pretty friendly, and suddenly there's this dark, gruesome scene at the very start of the chapter that, if you don't know what to do, immediately you basically watch Torin die. And so anyway, we've broken free. We move over here, and she says, "Go away. I know you're with them. I'll never surrender. Do whatever you're gonna do. Just leave me alone." And so you keep talking to her, and you basically eventually convince her and say, "Hey, I'm not from here. I'm from like the lands above, and I'm on a quest to go to the lands below to rescue my parents." And he says, "I can prove it. Here's a locket from your parents." And she goes, "Oh my God, so it's true, that you are here to help me." And she says, "Oh, by the way, I have a knife in my boot," which doesn't make any sense again. Like if Torin was able to break out of his own bonds, being restrained as he was, it should be far easier to help her get out of her bonds because she, your hands are free. You're not bonded. And so you can see she's actually quite attractive when they make it sound like the whole time that she is not attractive. Um, so anyway, the whole point of it is you end up with a knife, which you're actually going to use quite a few times. Um, so as you begin talking to her, you find out that she wants to basically head back eventually. And so Torin says, "Well, I can't go back. I still have to go to the lands below to basically find Licentia and confront her and free my parents." And so you go with these people, and let me tell you, this is where the game takes a turn. Now, you're staring at this puzzle trying to figure out, what do I have to do? So they explain what you have to do, and you have to make a match a certain pattern, and they only move in certain ways. Now, if this were me, and if I were Lowe, and if I were designing this to be a game played by kids, I would have the little hint maker down in the lower right provide better clues. I didn't use the hint maker because I was just clicking away madly and just trying to figure it out on my own. But for the sake of children, this is not an easy puzzle, and it's about to get even worse. Another thing I would have done is after clicking the clue thing so many times, I would have the clue thing say, "Would you like me to solve this for you?" And then have the clue thing solve it for you. This is something they did. I can't believe I'm about to use a good reference for Lighthouse. If you watch my playthrough of Lighthouse, you'll hear me complain a lot about Lighthouse. But one of the beautiful things they did in Lighthouse was there were certain puzzles that if you couldn't figure it out early in the game, it would say, "Hey, do you want me to solve it for you?" And you just hit yes, and it does it. I don't think you get the points for solving it or anything like that, but the option of being free of being that stuck and being frustrated was there, that you can just bypass something very easily. This is the same thing here. Like, you're listening to their tones and stuff like that, or you're trying to get them in a right order and stuff like that until they hold hands. So you can see those two right there are holding hands right now. Those three are now holding hands. So now those four are holding hands. So we're pretty sure we're about to get close, and now it gets even worse. So now we've got them all holding hands, and now you click on them with this note thing, and they do notes. And you can see the note structures above in terms of the order you're supposed to get them. Now, again, if you are not musically inclined to understand and hear those notes in those frequent and in the correct order, this is not easy. And to make it more complicated, they move in a specific pattern. So, for example, if you click this one, it always moves the two next to it that it needs to be next to. So it doesn't always move in the same formation. It always just keeps the two that should be next to it next to it. It moves those two around it. I spent way too long trying to figure this out, and I struggled with I did the left side first, trying to think I need to do the women's side first, and eventually I got so frustrated that I said, I'm going to try the right side with the guys. I actually ended up getting those much quicker, and I cannot even tell you why. Sheer luck, because by this time, after hearing the females go ah, 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 I was already done. Like, by the time I started doing the guys and hearing them go ah 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 ah, I was like, okay, I'm so done with this. And so I ended up just switching it up and doing the guy side. Again, this is something that if I were Lowe, or if I were the designer of this game, I would have clues that say, oh, the first and second one need to have, what the first one needs to wear a red or a yellow thing, and the second one needs a blue belt, or I'm sorry, a red belt. And so you can kind of get an idea who's first, who's second, versus it saying whatever it probably says, like, that needs to be in the sequential order of the notes. Da 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 da. Use this to figure out what notes they are. Touch this one to, it always move these two, or whatever it says. I know for certain it doesn't solve it for you, but that is something for sure that I think the hint giver should have done better, knowing that this game is, to me, clearly targeted also for a younger audience, like a game that feels like it could have been played with an adult and a child, or if it was just a child alone. Now, if I was a kid, if I was 12 years old and I got to this part and I was not musically inclined and I did not have the patience that my old self has now, I would have probably stopped right here and just given up. Because honestly, trying to hear the tones and stuff like that, I didn't find it fun. I understand that Lowe is a music master. He has written great music, and he loves playing music, and he loves writing music. So there we go. We got the right side. But that doesn't mean that everyone else who's going to play the game does. And by making something that is specifically tone specific can be difficult on someone who just isn't inclined to understand or know music well, or even B, the people who are tone deaf or potentially 100% deaf. Like, that's why I feel like the clue giver could have been better at saying things that you can read. If you click the book, it'll show the dialogue that's been given to basically make this portion easier, or at least easier to bypass, and eventually say, hey, I've noticed you've clicked 10 times. Would you like me to solve it? And you could just hit no and then try a few more times, and it could come up again and say, hey, I've noticed you tried another 10 times. Would you like me to resolve it? Or just make it that you just click it and say, yeah, solve it for me. Or, I just felt this was extremely painful, and even sped up, like as much talking as I did, so I could feel the dead air. complaining about it. If you watch the regular gameplay, it is painful because you're just listening to these characters do their notes in their specific orders and stuff like that repeatedly. All right, so now we've switched over to chapter 4 and we see Peckard or whatever. He's talking to Licentia and he says, hey, you know what? I have a plan that will work. What if I can get that off of your neck and get you back up to the lands above and you can do your revenge? Now, if you look, this is clearly Licentia, the same maid hand who had saved you. And now she clearly looks like she's twisted and evil. Keep that in mind. So we're in this new area, right? And we open up this little thing and it has like this cleany thing. Now, first thing I notice is this table in front of me is very dirty, so I'm probably going to use it on that. And the only exit is up here, and that's the only way you can go, despite it looks like the cave goes up and to the left. You can't go those ways. So we're going to clean this thing off, and it looks like buttons. Perfect. So I moved my mouse around and totally missed it, but you did see it highlight for a split second. So it's basically that second button, like closest to the door, second one over. But I totally missed it when I was mousing over because I was being a little too quick about it and I was clicking the other buttons and it just seemed like I was stuck. So I kept trying to move around, try to figure out what it is. Again, clearly I'm not using a walkthrough or else I would have found this out much sooner that there is a button that I keep hovering right over and I keep missing. That is the key to getting out of here. So I'm trying different things, trying to wash it off more. Maybe that's what I need to do. Those clearly look like round things on there. There's a reason we cleaned it off. Trying to click on everything around here like, well, this seems very dead-endy. And I'm going to go have dinner. Basically came back and slapped the button because this time I slowed down after eating dinner. Maybe I was hungry when I was playing. And here we go. This is where the game starts to take a downward slope. So we just watched this thing shoot a cannonball. Okay, well, it doesn't seem safe like you would stand in front of a cannonball. So we go here and we look, we see this thing with this thing like that. And quickly, when we go here, I immediately notice that's the same thing as the seesaw. So we probably need to do something, since Torin can go in here, we need to do something to balance this. So now we have to figure out what to do. Now we just saw a cannonball fire off, but it didn't land in that thing, so it's not like it's shooting into this thing. So what we're going to try to do is we press that button, move a little to the right, and you see this cannonball take forever, and sure enough, you catch it. And it is just that. It's a cannonball. Now, at the time, I don't know how many you need, so we're going to go ahead and throw one in here. Jump in here. Is that enough? Nope. Torin is much heavier than a single cannonball, which makes sense. So we're going to do this again. Wait for the cannonball to do its thing, catch it, do another one. Let's just catch a few cannonballs at this point. Spoiler alert, you'll see it here in a moment. The cannonballs count towards Torin's weight. So we've got 2 more cannonballs, so we have a total of 3 in there. Now let's see if that's enough to, nope. I like that the weight is like so much so that it just straight goes down. Doesn't even kind of sort of taper a little bit to show how close you are or how close you're not. So we're going to catch a few more cannonballs. So there's one, there's another one coming our way. All right, cool. So now we have 2 more. So we've already put in 3, we've got 2 more. Let's head on back. So we know we need to balance it. We're going to put that in there, try it, and Torin still weighs too much. So we're going to put that in there, try it. Now Torin weighs not enough. Okay, so 5 is too many. So we're going to get out, get a cannonball. Now jump back in here. Guess what? Cannonball counts into Torin's weight because we're carrying a cannonball. Torin's weight is way too heavy. And so I was going to try to see if we need to put cannonballs on both sides to make that the equal weight, but that doesn't work. So we've done 4, and that was not enough. Doesn't seem to be enough. But Torin is carrying a bowling ball. Or, sorry, not a bowling ball, a cannonball. So we know we need to balance it, because that's what that symbol is there. But so why was 4 not enough? like three was enough, 4 was enough. So it seems like Torin's weight is off because now we're still too heavy for it. And we can't put the cannonball anywhere, but let's chuck it out there. See if the cannonball has anything. Oh, there we go. So now we've balanced it and we've heard something shift. So we're going to go over here. And sure enough, a catapult thing has come out. So let's get a cannonball and see if we need to shoot that across the way after we've already discarded one into the lava. Nope, that's not it. So we don't need a cannonball. So we're going to crank it back, put the cannonball in there. And then we jump in there too. I'm not sure if the cannonball had to go in. But we laugh, haha, and then Torin. I wonder if we don't put the cannonball in there. If I just realized that because we put the cannonball in there thinking that we were going to shoot a cannonball, but then it said, yeah, nothing. So we climbed in. So I wonder if we don't put a cannonball in there, if it still works. And thus Boogle would not have gotten hit. All right. So as I said, once we enter in this area, it really starts to go into a downward spiral. So first we have this maze. And fine, we can see the whole maze by moving back and forth using that slider like I'm doing right now. Now the problem is, in order for Torin to move, you can't just click and he will walk in that general direction. If you could hear me, I'm literally clicking non-stop to make Torin move because he'll walk a few like little steps and then get stuck behind something. So then you have to click off a little bit to make him move out of the way and move all the way over. Now, to me, when I've looked at this, to me, I see what looks to be the end of this maze just by going all the way up here, make our way across. And there's this huge chunk of land over here that we should just be able to walk over because Torin walked over another large piece of land over here. So we get over here and make Torin walk over, and then he's stuck. Like, he cannot climb over this, which this seems like a logical place to just keep climbing to the right and climb up. But Torin seems to be stuck. So despite waiting quite a bit, trying to click madly, and just imagine this is sped up now. So imagine this was normally like a entire 5-hour video. How long this is actually going when it's not sped up. So there is something over to the other side that kind of looks like this like city thing over there. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually restore back to where Torin was in the just start of it and make our, hey, did you notice that something was glistening over there? Why, yes, something was glistening over there. So Torin, we're going to click madly to get Torin to move in that general direction. So first, every once in a while, you'll see it glisten right there. And it's a wrench. So how that wrench is not scorching hot, sitting here in this lava and being metal, I don't know. But Torin can easily pick it up, despite how it should be melting his fingers. So now we're going to make our way back. And we're going to go back to where we were to see if maybe the wrench does something that does not make sense. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. We're going the wrong way. So despite how Torin just climbed over those rocks with the greatest of ease, getting over to the last part of this, making my way through needlessly, because spoiler alert, we are indeed going the wrong way. Despite how this looks like it is the end of the maze and that there is no cut in lava and that Torin should just be able to walk over it, that's not the case. There's actually something else to do. And it's odd that, and it might be something with the with this game size of the frame, because when I first launched Torin's Patches, it's not full screen and the menu doesn't line up at the top. And so even when you full screen it, you can see that it doesn't. And there's areas in here where I wish that turning the music down was able, or not the music, but the sound effects, because the incessant sound of the lava was literally getting to me because I'd spent so much time here. Sounds like Vader basically suffocating. So we can't get there no matter what we do. He just will not climb over. Doesn't make any sense. Certainly looks like the end. Looks like you just go over these two lumps and then go up those stairs. So we can't seem to walk forward. So what we're going to do is we're going to restore backwards to where we are after we just got the wrench before we started making our way across. And we're going to try a different path. So we're going to make our way across over to the right side, where it kind of looks like there is a shrunk down city or something like that. So every once in a while we scroll over to the right, make sure we're on the right path. We're cruising along. Good old Torin. I cannot tell you how much I hated this part of the game. Like, the first couple of chapters are so great. So great. They're fun, they're colorful, everything is fun. So anyway, we found this contraption. Looks kind of nifty. We're going to put a wrench in it. Boogle's going to look inside. We're going to give her an old squeaky and fire some water, and that creates a brief little bridge that we hop across. And this is another one of those things that is needless. So once again, moving the save games and stuff like that because I've reached the end. But to talk about this area real quick, it's one of those things where you walk in a room and then, similar to the old Scooby-Doo cartoons, you see them go in a door to the left, and suddenly further up the hall, they're coming out through a door on the right, and physically not possible, whatever. But that's what this is. You can't get lost here. It's literally just a pain of wandering through 3 screens of these doors, going in and out in a random pattern, trying to figure out the right pattern to go through. But as long as you keep walking in the same general direction, you'll eventually land in the right place. There is a few places where it splits, so you do have to decide which way to go. For example, right there. But overall, it's pretty impossible to get lost. It's just monotonous. This whole chapter is monotonous. The incessant clicking to get through the lava area, the cannonball thing, the weight thing was fine. That's, your standard Sierra type of puzzle. But the incessant clicking to get through the lava, and then the incessant going around all these different passages, it's fun if it's a shorter screen, like one screen where you kind of make your way through a hodgepodge of crazy doors and alleyways. But this one is like literally 3 or 4 screens that you have to make your way through, and sometimes it's very hard to see where you're at in the screen because you're at the very top and really, really small, like right there. And so I did not like this chapter at all. There's no engaging characters in this chapter. There's like nothing. Like, all the chapters up to here at least had fun, engaging types of characters. This has nothing. This is a horrible, horrible chapter. And so we touch that thing and we see these things spring up. Now, I assume this is kind of like the Gabriel Knight thing, where you can only jump on it once and then it's going to go away. So I just made my way across the first time, and as you watch, there is a bridge in the upper right-hand corner that extends as you jump down on certain ones, and then when you reset the rocks, it retreats. So now it's very clear what you have to do. You actually have to land on probably all of them to make sure that the bridge extends out all the way. Now, I couldn't figure out what to do here because I forgot that you can scroll down on the tops and bottoms, and it's the same thing here. So I could not figure out that there was other ones I need to jump on before this, because I need to pull that slider bar on the right side. I need to pull it down to be able to see it. So I actually ended up restoring to right here where I first said I hate mazes. So now I'm looking at it, figuring out how I'm going to jump. So you're going to jump across. And I've already missed, I think, 2. See, I've already messed up. So I already missed 2 anyway, and the bridge doesn't come out all the way. So you can tell, definitely need to hit all of them to make them all come back. And once again, forgot about the slider bar. See, I'm totally forgetting. I'm assuming that it's putting me right back at the beginning, but I can't figure out why I can't jump. And it's because that slider bar isn't pulled down, and then I finally realized, oh, it's a slider bar. So now I figured out how to do it. Slider bar down, and then we can get them all. And then it becomes pretty easy. Once you figured out how to do this, it becomes way easier. You're just going to do the 2 loops on the outside, make your way down, and then up, and all the way, and then bang. The bridge is out. So now we're going to cut across here. That one isn't too bad for puzzles and stuff like that. And now we have a new area. And if you click there, he says, oh, good, it's another crystal thing. This one, again, was pure luck. You would think that the lights, and maybe I'm missing how this works, but the lights would point in the general direction of where the crystals are pointing. So for example, the very first one, it feels like the light should bend to the upper left instead of bending to the upper right. But it was just a matter of clicking repeatedly, and I thought I had it, but that's not it. You have to have it shoot into the middle. So I continued messing around with it, and again, I did not know what I was doing here. I'm just grabbing crystals, and I finally got it. So it shoots down the middle, does the sound, click the powder, and away we go to the next area. And then he warns her that Torin's coming for her, and she's yelling about how there's supposed to be no complications. And then she tells Dreep to go find you. And Torin zips through, knocks himself out on the pole. And so what we're going to do is one of the things that Boogle learned is the nurse thing, and quickly does kind of like the Bugs Bunny thing. And I love that he breaks the 4th wall and then hits the Torin button to get something. That is one of the many reasons I love Boogle. A, he's drawn beautifully. Like whoever designed Boogle did a great job. But the fact that he breaks the 4th wall is amazing. So I love that he kind of knows he's in a game. So we find ourselves using the knife that I talked about earlier that we're going to use quite a bit. And Torin bumps his head into the help button, which I thought was funny because now Torin has also broken the 4th wall and they end up falling and falling. And this is actually kind of cute. Like the falling sound, he keeps falling until he just gets tired of yelling, kind of. And then when he told Boogle to be safe, Boogle actually turns into a safe. And Torin finds himself arrested for basically hurting plants. And we see Dreep come by, and Dreep is going to go ahead and take Boogle. So there's Boogle, and Dreep has him. And now Torin is without the best part. So he goes before the judge, explains he's from the lands above, he's after Licentia, and the guy says, well, you know what, I'll be lenient. I am pretty mean, but I'll be lenient with you. Just don't break any more laws, or we will toss you into the lands below. Or something like that. And so Torin says he understands. And he's basically told about the auditorium. Or he will be told about the auditorium from the plant. So he talks to the plant, says, here's how you can help. I've got these like little slug things down in my roots that have been tearing it up. Now, this is kind of cool because this plays back to the first chapter where we saw quick slugs, and we'll see them in a second here. And so we know we need some kind of goo probably because that's what worked in the first chapter. It's also what's going to work here. Now this chapter gets better because unlike the previous chapter that was all lava, there was nothing there. It had horrible puzzles and incessant clicking and walking around. At least this chapter brings back having characters to engage with. So there's the slugs, and when you mouse over, they quickly disappear. And it's not like the inchworm. There's nothing you do to catch them. So clearly we're going to need some slime. So we have a plant, but the plant doesn't do nothing. So we go over here in this tree. It has some sap, and then this tree acts like a sap because he goes on crying. And as he cries more, there's more and more sap. And so we're going to use the leaf that we just got from the other plant to essentially collect the sap as he continues to moan and cry as you talk to him. So see, he just cried and a bunch of sap came out. And again, that's probably all we needed to do is just talk to him that one time. But again, I'm trying to basically get all of the conversation out of all the characters in my original play to pretty much get as much as you can out of the game. But we've brushed that thing against it. We've put sap on the thing and we've trapped all 4 slugs. And so we tell her and she says, hey, thanks. You know what? That's great. She mentions something about the auditorium. And so now the slugs will basically tell you how to walk across this thing. It's similar to the inchworm, where you just mouse over and it'll go, yep, 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 nope, 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 no way, yes, 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 that type of thing. And it's monotonous because it's slow, and the whole thing lights up. So it's not like you can easily quote unquote cheat to figure out where to click just by waiting for something to highlight. You literally just have to move your mouse around, and it's typically very close to where you are to get the yes and be able to move. And I think there's four times you have to move, or 5. Yeah, there you go. And then so we step on a plant and everything freaks out, and there's the auditorium. So we're going to go ahead and head inside. My corgi is snoring behind me. Probably can't be picked up. But we go in here and this guy says, you know what, I've had enough. And he puts his top hat and cane down. So pretty sure we're just going to pick that right up. So now we have a top hat and a cane. So click on the random poster to read it. Instead of reading it, it just gives it to us. So we have a cane and we have a top hat, nothing inside of them. So we're going to just look at the various characters here. We have this guy who is got an arrow in his head and appears to be drinking and shooting arrows at the rabbit, who keeps dodging out of the way and basically using his ears to hold the apple. And you can see a number of arrows all over the wall. There's even a carrot in the wall. So he leaves, throws his bow down. We're going to go ahead and take that. And I can't remember which one of them it is first. I think it might be this rabbit who says, hey, are you the saw bow player that everyone is raving about? And so now we kind of know, all right, we need a bow, which we just got, and we also need a saw. And as you talk to the rabbit, he says, I want to leave this place, whatever. I'm the best thing that guy's ever had. I just need a new gig because I'm tired of my ears and myself being shot at. And he's very twitchy about it. But I think he's the first one to give us the clue about the bow saw player. So we know we need that. So we're going to keep talking to him until we basically expend the dialogue. And there's a saw. And there's a guy with a saw. If you try to get the saw, he won't give you the saw naturally. That'd be just too easy. Now, eventually we'll make our way back around and he won't be around. He won't be looking at the saw and you'll be able to pick up the saw. I'm not sure if it's because we've done something else to trigger it. And she mentions the bow saw. And then as you walk by that stage, you'll hear like music from, I believe it's King's Quest, Freddy Farkas, and another game. I can't remember what the third game is, but there's 3 musical tracks that play as you walk in front of that tent. So when you talk to this guy, he talks about how he does voice recordings, and that's what those crystals are that you see inside. They're very synthesized voices and stuff that he has recorded. And one of the greatest ones that he has is a voice recording of someone from the lands above by the name of Licentia. So we're going to talk to him and say, hey, we'd love to get that. And so in order to do that, though, we need to help him out first. So it's a lot of helping other people out first before they're going to give you what they want or what you want. Let me get that right. I am surprised that my voice has maintained. I do feel like it's cracking a little bit. So you basically say, hey, I can up that. My name's Torin. I'm from the lands above. And you can record my voice. So he says, cool. And he gives you a voice recording. He says, hey, go ahead and take this music box too. So we put it in there. And the top one will play it. And you can hear basically it is Licentia's voice. So cool. We have a crystallized voice. So we're going to keep making our way around. There's this juggler guy, or whatever you want to call him, with his kid. Doesn't seem very safe. There is a little cushion thing on the floor. When you try to click it, he says, no, they probably need it more than they do. But eventually they step away, and it'll be available for the taking. And then there's this magician guy who says, I am the greatest magician in the world. Pick a card, any card. And then all his tricks go pretty much horrible. And he says, is your card this card? And he pulls out a bouquet of flowers. No, that's a bouquet of flowers. So he tries a number of different things, pulls out a parrot, and says, nope, that's not it. And then he pulls a book of magic. We're going to keep that in mind. So he pretty much says, I need a new gig. I can't figure out this magic trick thing. Being blind makes it difficult and whatnot. So guy is still at the saw. Talk to him and ask him about stuff. And he says, the only saw I saw was the saw that I saw. Or something like that. So she is waiting for the talent. And as we scrolled back by, he's now gone. But then he says, you can't take my saw. Because he's right there. Hammering whatever it is he's hammering. So we'll go back around. This guy's jamming out. He's still there. And we just took some bagpipes from the shelf. Oh, and by the way, speaking of the bagpipes, now we have the saw, now that we picked up the bagpipes. You're going to definitely want to hang out near the end of the commentary. There's actually a very special message from Lowe that it is not in the playthrough. I specifically saved it only for the commentary version. So if I remember to put that in the comments, also to say, hey, wait until like the end to hear a special message from Lowe in this gameplay. So anyway, we have the hat now. We talk to the rabbit and convince the rabbit to go in the hat. And we go to the blind magician and say, hey, you know what? Why don't you do the old rabbit in the hat trick? And you explain that the rabbit from the other thing has accepted to basically be partnered with this wizard or magician, if you will. And so he says, well, now I need a wand. So what you do is you actually use the saw to cut the wand. So the saw is going to have multiple purposes. So the staff that we picked up when we first came in here has been cut, turned into a quote-unquote wand. And then he says, well, I need a, like the handkerchief thing to pull. Now, this was random because I was like, well, there's nowhere else to go. And so I put the worm on this sign, and it actually made a handkerchief thing, which you give to him. And he says, you know what? Here, take my book of magic, which will be important later on. So we have this book of magic. Saw guy is gone. So we have a bow and a saw. And when we try to combine them, it says, hey, there's more to do here. So it doesn't matter if you combine bow to saw or saw to bone. You take that up where the couple was, and you're going to put that on the bow. And now it sounds like we're ready. So we go up on the stage, and it's an empty audience. So Torin plays the instrument, tries to sing his heart out, but sings it rather horribly. And sure enough, the police show up. He's got a tear in his eye, saddened by the song that Torin was singing. He says, you're arrested. And he says, what for this time? For impersonating a singer. This time the judge is like, you know what? I've had it with you. You're going into the lands below, but he misses and throws you into the lands below where you just float. Now, clearly this took a second. You can see that you can move side to side, and there's a door down there. So we need to figure out how to get over there. So it's not the and the crystals broke when he threw us into the door. So what we do is we use the bagpipes, and you can hold the arrows to indicate how much you want Torin to move, or up and down also. So we're gonna shoot straight down and over. And shoot up a little bit. And we're going to shoot over to Licentia's entrance. Because, spoiler, that's where she's at. So it took a second before I noticed that there's actually what appears to be a doorbell. Because at first, I couldn't figure out how to get that door to work. Again, more indication that I am not using a walkthrough. But when I go back, Dreep just eats me. So clearly you do not want to just ring the doorbell and hang out. So we have this recording here, and clearly we have to piece something together, right? It's kind of like we're in Gabriel Knight, where you're splicing the tapes to make the message say something else. So what you need to have it say is either Dreep come here or come here Dreep, one of those two. I think it can be either one. Now, it takes a total of 4 crystals to make it happen. You'll see for the longest time, I had 3 in there because to me, I was hearing Dreep come here, but it's Reap come here is what I was hearing. The D wasn't there because that's the 4th crystal. So I was like, oh, I've got it. Like it's saying Dreep come here, but technically it was actually, I suppose, saying Reap come here. And I should have known, actually, in hindsight, because when you do something, you hear that ding, indicating that you've done something correctly. And I didn't hear it. So tried a few different things, like hiding the recording. Like, oh, do we just throw it out here and then try it? So let's try that. Ring the doorbell. Oh, and then you can hide. And he sticks his head out because it is not saying the correct thing. I only have 3 crystals in there, so it's saying Reap, come here, or come here, Reap. So I kept trying to ring the doorbell, not figuring out what I'm doing wrong, recollect it, play it again. It still sounds right to me. Trying to figure out there's a crystal I'm missing. Technically I am, but I'm not smart enough to figure it out at this point. I do eventually figure it out, obviously, or else I wouldn't be doing a commentary about it. But to me, I am still hearing Dreep come here or come here Dreep. I can't remember which one I had. I think I even swapped it out so the reverse happens, thinking, oh, it has to be the other way. Because when I pieced it together, I think I had like Dreep come here, and then I think I changed it to come here Dreep, thinking maybe that's why it's not working, but that's not it. It's still, and I even saved it like, I don't know why he's not going out there to chase it, because that seemed like the right thing, because when you go out there, you can just leave it out there. So clearly I'm on the right path. I'm just not figuring out what I'm doing wrong yet. So I'm kind of looking around. Do I need to, lure him somewhere? Do I need to move it further away? That doesn't make a lot of sense, because then the voice would be harder to hear. So I begin floating around trying to figure out what I'm doing here. So figure I'll shoot for that red door, see if there's something I'm missing, but you can't get out. Doesn't matter. I love that he can hit his head though. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fly back, because clearly I can't get out of here, which makes sense. Like if you're tossed into the lands below, probably not going to be easy to get out. So we're going to come back here, pick up the recording, try it again. The definition of insanity is trying the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. And I even type Dreep come here, because that is totally what I'm hearing, and totally confused. And this is, I think that's where I swapped it to say come here Dreep, Like, this is where I think I was like, oh, maybe it has to be the other way, and I've just got it backwards. Like, good old Lowe making it like really close. See, yeah, also not come here, Dreep. But it's because it's not saying Dreep. It's actually saying Reap, and I have not figured it out. So, the pain of hindsight, knowing that that's not the key either. And then I hear the chime, and now I know I've got the right one. Now, I thought maybe I just need to hit the recording and it'll float out, but clearly not. So I drift off, throw it out there, and sure enough, it pretty much says, let's see how smart he is. So you ring the bell, hide under here, and he goes for it. So now we go inside and we see our parents, along with a few famous people on the other side, including what looks like to be Lowe. And we cast a spell and interrupt Licentia, but she says, oh, you know what, you can't stop me. And she begins to choke. And when you touch it, the chain thing breaks, and she's like, oh, wait. And then she sees the birthmark, trademark thing, whatever you want to call it. And she realizes who he is. And she is suddenly sorry about all that stuff. And then he shows up, tosses her aside, and he threatens to be done with Torin. But as they struggle, Torin throws her on top of her and he says, if you do anything, I will kill her. And then so Torin kind of steps aside to what he thinks is lava, uses the spell book, and swaps places with her. And he checks on Licentia, but turns out he's okay. And she explains that's not lava, that's Dreep's food. And so she had cast him and tossed him aside. And she says, Torin, I think it's time we all go home. Now, I'm all for happy endings. But let's face it. A, why did she originally abduct Torin's parents? That's never explained. Other than if Pecker did it or, was told her to do it. B, why didn't Peckard or whatever his name is, why didn't he just kill Torin to begin with once he found him? I get that maybe he didn't want to get his hands dirty and all that stuff. But also, they just, they teleport back and she never explains. We don't get like an explanation of her telling Torin who he really is. And I get it, maybe because, he's so happy with the parents that he has now that maybe he doesn't need to know the truth of where he's really from. But the fact that she abducts his new parents is never really explained. Peckard, or whatever you want to call him, his relationship to the king and queen and killing them and trying to kill Torin originally, that's not really explained because that relationship isn't very clear in the beginning. And then when they go home, she's just like, yeah, let's just go home. Forget everything that I've done that is quote unquote evil in my attempt to get revenge. And now that I know who you are, everything's great. Like she just erases everything out of, her mind. And Torin is suddenly very accepting of that, which is great for Torin as a character. Like he should be forgiving, he's a hero, whatnot. But I did feel like there could have been much more to that ending. Like there should have been some explanation of her revealing to Torin who he really is. Like, hey, Breckard, the guy we just threw out there, he's one who killed your mom and dad, and I was banished here. Give Licentia an opportunity to speak to Torin so that Torin feels sympathy for her and understands her, and then have Torin have that great character moment that says, I'm very sad that I don't remember my mother and father who were killed when I was a young infant. But these are my parents now, and they're the ones who raised me, and they're the ones I love, and just have that great character moment. Also kind of explain maybe how Licentia or whoever put Torin in this position to be with his newfound parents. So overall, still an amazing game. There is the fire lava area that I absolutely hate. I do feel like the ending could have been stronger, explained, but I still love this game. I absolutely still love this game, and it's an incredible game. Hopefully you hung out all the way to the end. Much love to you. Check out this very special message from Lowe.
Come here. What the? Boogle? Mom? Dad? I swear I'll stop her.
Congratulations, you did it! That's nice to see someone else has an Lowe sense of humor. That's why you get to hear this, my very own personal Easter egg, instead of the boring plain old death message you see before you there on the screen. Anybody who comes all the way through this game asking everybody you meet about this evil sorceress named Licentia, and then finally finds her, and then tricks Dreep into following a recording of her voice, and then doesn't use the Book of Magic on her, but instead plays the bagpipes, deserves much more than just another boring old death message. So here's my personal thank you for playing the game. And now, enjoy the ending. But whatever you do, don't tell anybody how you got this message. Instead, just taunt them with, "Why, I got a personal message from Lowe at the end. Didn't you?" Congratulations, you did it! That's nice to see someone else has an Lowe sense of humor. That's why you get to hear this, my very own personal Easter egg, instead of the boring plain old death message you see before you there on the screen. Anybody who comes all the way through this game asking everybody you meet about this evil sorceress named Licentia, and then finally finds her, and then tricks Dreep into following a recording of her voice, and then doesn't use the Book of Magic on her, but instead plays the bagpipes, deserves much more than just another boring old death message. So here's my personal thank you for playing the game. And now, enjoy the ending. But whatever you do, don't tell anybody how you got this message. Instead, just taunt them with, "Why, I got a personal message from Lowe at the end. Didn't you?"